Hello everyone, you have the second part of Unit 3 here. As I told you, we have divided them into two short classes. One is connectors that I have explained before, and now you have formal or informal writing. This is going to be very short because this is just an explanation about the difference between formal and informal. I have uploaded, I will upload a video about formal and informal writing, and this is just something very practical. We have to do it with the practice of writing, and this is not theoretical, but just to give you some advice when writing. For example, with the use of mobile phones now, we are writing very quickly, even in Spanish, and we forget some consonants or some, we abbreviate too much all of the things that we write. For example, I was very surprised when someone asked me, hola is written with H or without H? And I say, my God, hola with H. And it's because people write, write not the H's in Spanish. And this is why, well, I am a philologist, so I think that we should write everything, all the words completely, hours or a qué hora, so hora probably with an H, but I will never write hora without H, okay? So sometimes this informal writing of the mobile phones are in writing in school or in academical writing, and this is something that you shouldn't do. So as I told you in the previous presentation, what you have to do here is to write in a very academical or serious way, okay? So this is just some advices, but pay attention because it's something that you have to do. Okay, formal, these are the contents, differences, structures, expressions, where to get formal and informal input, okay? This is a slight definition of what formal English is or what informal English is. Formal English used in serious texts and situations, for example, official documents, books, reports, articles, business letters. I am sure that if you are going to apply for a job in another country, you are not going to write, hello director, how are you? Okay, so you are going to write a formal letter, and this is something that always have to be corrected by any specialist or someone have to give you advice. And informal English is the one that in everyday conversation and in a note or in a letter that you write to a friend or a message in a mobile phone. Remember that to send a message is not very properly used. You should say to text, I will text you. It is not to send an SMS, as people say. It's to text. Okay, I will text you. Is it to send a message with a mobile phone? So probably the English that we have included in these presentations are too exaggerated. Okay, but this is what you should understand to make a difference between formal or informal. For example, as the price of $5 was reasonable, I decided to make the purchase without further thought. And some people say bucks for $4, so this is informal way. I decided to make the purchase. It could be I said okay to the purchase. Okay, so this is informal. Formal English is used in officially literary academic content or an informal personal conversation, okay? In all these slides, as I told you before, this presentation is going to be much shorter than the other one. We have put an example of formal or informal. And in the video that you have in a very visual way what formal or informal written is. So the informal is more improvised and the formal is more thought. Informal English sentences are longer and more complicated, and in informal English sentences are simpler or shorter. Okay, you have a couple of examples here. For example, Toyota's US sales bounded back in March a substantial discount, helped to win back customers who had been shaken by the firm's mass safety recalls. So probably when you read this, you say, but do they try to, for me, so they intend to me to write like that? No, of course we don't. We don't want you to write like that because this is too technical, this is too formal, but don't write in a very colloquial way. The informal version of this could be, did you see Toyota sales figures? Looks like the discounts have actually worked, okay? So, but this is more conversational, okay? Another example, informal, for example, when we are speaking in an informal situation, we say, well, but, or you doubt, or you use fillers, or you improvise, okay? Normally, when you are speaking English, where you delay, they are called delay expressions, is to give you time. For example, if you are speaking English or you have to, in an oral exam, you're in an oral exam, you say, well, let me think, but, or these are called fillers, F-I-L-L-E-R-S, fillers, because they are filling the conversation or the dialogue to give you time. This normally doesn't exist in formal way or when you give a speech. So you have more examples here of informal English. You say expressions, exactly, I agree with you. But in formal English, it could be other way round, okay? I completely agree with the sentence you said. This could be formal. You have here more contrast in formal or informal. For example, you use verbs or expressions like nevertheless, to undertake, truly, heyday, happens, okay? And in informal, you use freaking, who, no, puke, okay? So this is more oral, okay, than written. You have here more expressions. For example, in formal English, people try to avoid phrasal verbs. You know, phrasal verbs, this is something that you hate. Okay, but in informal English, especially when people speak, they try to use a lot of phrasal verbs. So if you speak formal, much better for you because you don't have to use the phrasal verbs, okay? So just when you have time, try to avoid these kinds of phrasal verbs if you are speaking in a formal way. For example, put off, atrasar, and you in informal you can say delayed, okay, or postpone. Is better than to say put off. Informal English, probably, as I told you before, this is a bit exaggerated. Let me go, I'm doing fine. When you put I'm doing with an apostrophe, this is more related to informal, to WhatsApp, to songs that you say, but Lourdes, can I write doing without the G and an apostrophe? I say no. This is too colloquial. This is used when you speak, with this used when you sing, but when you write or when you speak, you say doing, okay, and write it right. Where to get formal and informal input? I don't know if you can see it properly. So the informal language is conversation, improvised, or simple sentences, and formal language is official, literacy, academic, or complex sentences, okay? But if you, for example, are going to be a teacher and you're going to speak to, imagine that you arrived into a bilingual school, or you have to talk to parents that are native, it's better, or a director that is a native. For example, here in school SEC, we have a director that is English, and teachers have to speak in a formal way to the director. Try to use formal, okay? Obviously, you are intelligent and you are professional and you are going to do it. But what worries me is that you use informal when you are writing. Okay, what you have to do is to write formal. Be careful with this and pay attention to the video you are going to see, because you have to practice with writing in English. What are we going to do in the synchronous class? Well, what we're going to do is to clarify doubts or questions that you have about formal, informal, or connectors, and we're going to do some extra exercise about connectors, okay? But as you could see here, you have no many sentences or many kinds of exercises, but I have prepared some exercises for you to include a real connector, or to transform a sentence, a formal sentence, into informal, or just the opposite, informal to formal. So we have finished here. This is all for Unit 3, and after you have seen these 2 videos, we will see in a synchronous session. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in a synchronous class.